Hello, and welcome to the Oikos Family Podcast, episode number 70. I'm Sonja Wood, and today I'm going to share with you a situation that is not going to be unknown by anybody that is listening to this at any time, whether it be now or years from now, because it's all about this big global pandemic of 2020 called COVID-19. Here in South Africa, we went into lockdown in April, which meant that Oikos, I'm telling you about Oikos because this is the Oikos Family Podcast. Well, Oikos closed down, literally shut its doors, and everybody went home to be in lockdown. And so what I wanted to share with you today was that we have discovered something now that we're in June, and that is that we have a deeper and deeper awareness of Thanksgiving and gratitude. With each passing month of this situation that we are in, which is really, really serious. There's many, many people affected. Well, I think everybody anywhere in the world is affected by this global pandemic in one way or another. And I don't mean to lessen the suffering that people are having by talking about what we're thankful for, because interestingly, the very things that we are thankful for are the areas that we have found suffering in. So it is a topic and a theme that you will find carrying all the way through the podcasts and Oikos Family Ministries is the treasures that we have found through the valleys. And this valley being the valley of the global pandemic, the same thing has happened. We found many treasures that I know for a fact we would not have found had we not been in this very specific valley. So what I want to do going forward is I want to find those podcasts or videos or any such things that speak about the treasures that are found in valley times. And I want to recycle them. Recycling is a big word in the world at the moment, so it's not unfamiliar to people. Well, I want to recycle some of our videos and our podcasts and whatever it is that I can that is going to support people in this time. Because I was thinking it's quite interesting to me that podcasts or videos or material content that was done many years ago was done because of having walked through a valley and because of suffering and the treasures we found in those valleys. So let me get back to our current time, even though I'm going to be sharing a variety of historic content that is relevant now in this time. But for right now, what I wanted to share with you was the gratitude, the areas that we have found our gratitude deepening. The one is that we've had to work double as hard. So our work has increased. Our efforts have had to double. Our support and help has halved, which has meant that our efforts have had to double. And I have found that to be a tremendously wonderful thing in the fact that it is really helping us to grow and to measure where is our commitment. Are we going to just give up in these times as it's just too difficult? It's just way too difficult. We can't do this. Or is it causing us to be grateful that we actually have more work to do, for which we are so incredibly grateful? That's one of the areas where our gratitude has deepened. Because if we think about it for a moment, if COVID and the global pandemic hadn't hit us, we would just keep on rolling, I suppose. Things would just keep happening and we'd keep doing our best. But now, with the situation having come to a standstill and then picking up the pieces and carrying on, it's like we're so grateful for every little piece. I must just say that I don't feel like we weren't grateful before, because I've always had this sense of tremendous appreciation for the privilege of being able to do what we do. But it's as though that privilege and that appreciation has just gone to a whole new level. It's just deepened and deepened and deepened. So the double effort has created a double appreciation, if I can say it like that, as simply as that. So that's one area that we have tremendous gratitude, and deepened gratitude is the hard work, the doubling up of the workload. In fact, it's been more than double because, first off, half of our people are still in lockdown, as in they haven't returned back to Oikos base where we do all the physical labor. So we're down by half the number of people that we used to have helping to do the work. And the workload has remained the same, and if not increased, because there's more people that we can help in this time. And so that's why I'm saying we have this greater and deeper level of appreciation and just a sense of deepening awareness of the privilege of being able to be in a position to help and to serve. The other area of appreciation has been in things that are just usually go unnoticed, I would say. Well, I must speak for myself actually when I say usually go unnoticed, is when things start passing you by and you don't stop to take note of them. A very small example of this is I love watching birds. And during this time, I have found that I have taken more note of the birds. I've been watching them more than I was before COVID. So it's like brought something back, something that has always been a pleasure to me that slowly faded away. Became further and further in the distance. It never went away completely, but it's come right back into focus again, whereas it started becoming out of focus. So here I am finding myself watching birds more, even to the point of where I'm thinking, oh, I think I must put some bird food out in that one little spot, and I must make sure the bird bath remains full of water, because we in our winter here in South Africa, and it's very, very dry. So the bird bath needs replenishing more than it would usually when we're in our rainy season, obviously. And so I'm taking note of those things, which I wasn't doing last year. I know for a fact I wasn't taking care of the bird bath's water levels last year during winter. And yet I'm finding myself doing that now, which is interesting because the workload has doubled. And so we're working much harder. So it's not as if we can say, well, we have got time on our hands now, so we're doing these things. It's not that. It's more just this awareness of noticing things that we were passing by before. So it's like a sudden increased and heightened awareness of focusing on things that we should be focusing on. Well, and I'm going back to myself and saying things that I believe that I need to be keeping a focus on and not dismissing and not walking past and not overlooking. And so as that has been happening during this time of this global pandemic, during the lockdown time, I have been aware of the privileges that we have in a greater way. I'm more appreciative of being able to go somewhere, get in the car and go somewhere. Whereas before, I didn't necessarily value that. I didn't necessarily give thanks for that. I just took it for granted. But now, when I go somewhere, I'm so grateful. I'm so appreciative because Greg, who's over 60, Greg, my husband, he's supposed to be in self-isolation because if you're over a certain age, you must try and avoid going out. So I suppose because I'm aware of that, it's made me feel the value and the appreciation of this privilege of being able to just go somewhere. And when I say go somewhere, I literally mean just around the corner to Oikos, where we have our print house, where we are trying to keep up with the manufacturing of the books amidst, all kinds of challenges. And on that, let me tell you, another area that I have discovered a difference is just in the general level of expectation. For example, if our printers started giving us trouble, our expectation was the service provider needs to sort this problem out ASAP because, we need to keep printing. Now, when I get hold of the service provider and I hear the pain of the fact that they're going through some retrenchment weeks and the agony that they are in as far as the well-being of the company is concerned, and their concerns about how this COVID-19 is impacting them, and you hear about that, then I suddenly feel this sense of privilege again of being able to have the opportunity to speak to them and to support them and encourage them and tell them, don't worry about our printers, we'll make another plan. I'll just put a notice on, Facebook or something just to say, please be patient with us while things are taking a bit longer to turn around than what they used to. And there's the next appreciation. Suddenly then I'm aware of how grateful I am for the people that are being patient, and I'm aware of their understanding and how they've been so accepting of the fact that we are doing our best that we can, considering the limitations that we are under. But at the same time, while they are being patient and understanding, we needing to be patient and understanding with our providers, suppliers of paper and service providers and so on and so forth, because everybody's in the same situation. So all of a sudden, there's this level of understanding and consideration that is there now that wasn't there before. And I'm actually going to say that it wasn't there before. It was like absent. And now it's there. And that's another area of gratitude. You see, suddenly there's appreciation that goes even deeper yet again. Being thankful for the fact that this element that was missing, this element of understanding and patience and consideration, these elements that seem to have just gone, they're now back. And I just think, wow, amazing. Isn't it fantastic? Isn't it wonderful that if that is one of the fruits of this crisis time, that we can get things back that had seemed to have slowly disappeared. I know that I've been hearing a lot of this in the last, say, between 2 and 5 years is, where are the morals? Where are the ethics? Where have they gone? They seem to have gone. They've vaporized, they've vanished, they've disappeared. Well, I am finding that this global pandemic is actually, I'm experiencing them coming back slowly, one by one. That's my experience at the moment in this time. And so another area of feeling a sense of deep, deep gratitude. So it's so different. It's instead of being frustrated with the service provider not coming when they say they're going to, you suddenly have this appreciation that they'll come when they can. They're dealing with a crisis of their own. So how can we help them and support them during this time? There's another thing to be thankful for, is that suddenly we're in a position to be able to help them rather than have an expectation from them. And then when we go to help them and we experience the blessing in that, it's just good. It's good. So today's podcast, that's what I wanted to share with you. I mean, I know that I can just keep going. I can go to the next area of gratitude and the next and the next and the next. How the family have had to pull together. How we're doing without so much that we used to just think we needed to have, and we don't have it anymore. And it's absolutely fine. In fact, I can go as far as saying it's not just fine, it's better. It's better to not have the things that we thought that we had to have. And so there's this huge shift and this big adjustment taking place within the family, which is good, within the running of Oikos, which is good, even though those things are a trial and they're difficult and there's suffering in it and there's hard work. And we are really working around the clock, and we have to really be careful of that and pace ourselves so that we don't just completely overdo it. And so now there's an appreciation and a respect of the value of pacing yourself and making sure you don't burn yourself out. I said in one of the previous podcasts, I said about this topic of burnout, because moms used to say to me, what did you do when you got burnout from home education? And it always took me by surprise, this question, because I thought, I don't feel that I can answer that question because I didn't experience burnout. What do they mean by that question? And I would query that in my mind. I'd be asking myself, what does that actually mean? But you see now in COVID, when we got this extreme load of work, I'm realizing that one can actually burn yourself out with the load if you don't pace yourself properly. But I suppose I never referenced that in home education, because for me, home education was just such a joyful journey. Yes, there was difficulties and suffering and struggle, but the blessings just so outweighed any difficulty that there wasn't this burnout feeling. So I have heard that burnout is a very big topic in home education, which is something that we can address because we are actually here to help people. And that's yet another thing to be thankful for, is that we can actually maybe help people not get to burnout in this particular area of home education and this learning lifestyle, because it doesn't need to, end in or result in burnout if you just pace yourself properly, which is what I was talking about with regard to the workload that we are in the midst of at the moment in Oikos. We have to pace ourselves properly. And you know what? There's something else to be thankful for, because while we're pacing ourselves properly so that we don't burn out, what is happening is people are just going to have to wait a little longer. So let's say we could go into the print house this weekend and just go building stock for the shelves. So we've got what we need for people's orders. We could just go at it nonstop, 7 days a week. But that wouldn't be wise, because then we might not be able to continue. Maybe we burn ourselves out, and then maybe there are even less people to help with the workload. And so that's just not a good picture. So what instead we do is we say, it's the weekend, and what we're going to do is we're going to sit and build a puzzle and listen to an audiobook and play a board game and watch something fun on TV. Those are the sort of things that we will be doing to keep the balance. And so do you know what? Here we have yet another area of gratitude, because now we are having to intentionally be very intentional about stop, right, let's go and build a puzzle and listen to an audiobook. So we just relax. We just can rest a little bit so we can recharge, so that we can be strengthened again to go and continue with the work. And so it's just another place to be thankful. It's like, this is an area now that we can sit there doing this puzzle, thinking the value of stopping and doing this puzzle now suddenly has become greater. The value we find in it, instead of it just being like this, light pleasure, it's suddenly become deeply valuable to us. Because if we weren't being intentional about going and doing those things, the danger of that would possibly be that we would not be able to continue with what we are called to do. And so this whole cycle is causing us just to be so, so thankful. So thankful for the smallest things, watching a bird land on a branch and making sure there's water in the bird bath. The smallest things, just like incidental things that seem to be unnecessary or seem to not need to be, given attention. But what I have been finding is, as I've given them attention, I've been thinking how thankful I am for this moment, how thankful I am that I'm taking note of what's actually important. And I suppose that's everybody's can have a different view on that. What's important and what's not important is what's important to one is not to another, and so on and so forth. But for today, at this podcast, I just wanted to use this opportunity. Again, there we go. Something to be so thankful for is even having the opportunity of podcasts and being able to talk to you wherever you are, anywhere in the world, and just say to you, look for the treasures. I'm just seeking for those treasures. In fact, I would like to have been able to put on our Facebook page, this is a treasure I found today, and this is a treasure I found today, because every day I'm just finding treasures that are unusual. The treasure of having appreciation and understanding and patience with a service provider rather than frustration and annoyance. So suddenly the entire experience of dealing with that company or that business is entirely changed. Completely different to what it was before COVID, and different better, even though it means it slows down our turnaround time, it slows down our service efficiency and all these wonderful things. Instead of giving a speedy service, instead we're giving a message to say, please be patient with us, please be understanding, we're doing our best. There's many factors that are influencing our ability to be as efficient with our turnaround time as we were being before. And yet I am really, truly experiencing these delays to not be negative. They're not a negative thing. And so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that we are finding a deeper treasure lying beneath when we go digging a little bit. So I hope that you will dig for the treasures. As I said earlier on, I'm going to find podcasts and videos and anything that I can find that will support this treasure hunt, looking for the treasures and help you to find those treasures. And I hope that just sharing this little bit on this short amount of time that I have to sit and talk to you on this podcast about being grateful and finding those treasures and that level of gratitude just deepening and deepening. And before I go, this is one thing I want to tell you. I have heard people complaining bitterly, let me tell you. And I have just felt my heart ache for them. I've just thought, oh, don't do that. Don't complain. Don't use this moment, this time that you've spent complaining. Don't complain. Just rather swing that around, quickly flip it over and see the very thing that you were complaining about could actually be On the flip side of that, it could be something you can be thankful for. An example being what I was saying about the service provider. Instead of complaining that we can't get the service we need, I could be actually looking on the other side and seeing the opportunity of what can we do to help? How can we be understanding with the situation that they are in as well? And so quickly my complaining could flip. If I was tempted to complain about that moment, because it's our nature, it's human nature, because that's how it is. The opportunity presents itself for us to complain. And then it's up to us, how do we react and respond to that? Are we going to complain or are we going to be thankful and find the treasure? The treasure isn't the complaining, we know that. So I just wanted to say that before I left, is just to say, if you are finding yourself falling into that complaining trap, I'm going to encourage you to quickly look on the other side of that and see if you can find the treasure that would then be a blessing to you and to your children and to your family and to whoever you happen to speak to from that moment on. Because you could have continued complaining and anybody's ears around would have heard that complaining. Instead, you could be saying, you know what, this is something I would be tempted to complain about, but instead, I'm just going to be thankful. So now I've got to find the thing to be thankful. And there it is. Find the treasure. Go hunting, go seeking for that treasure. So thank you for listening to this podcast. I am so, so blessed to be able to share with you the many areas of Thanksgiving that we have in this time. There are so many more. And maybe I should just do a series on Thanksgiving, but maybe not. Maybe what I could rather do is find those videos that I was telling you about, or the content I was telling you about, and maybe just encourage you to find your own treasures rather than me just share my treasures with you. But I did today share some of my treasures with you, and I would love to hear of your treasures, actually. If you have found some wonderful treasures, share them with me. That would be fantastic. Just think how wonderful that would be. You'd be sharing the blessing. You found the treasure, and you share it with me, and then I can share it with somebody else. Oh, you see now, I've got something more to share with you, and I was about to go. And that is, a mom wrote, and she told me that they had experienced the blessing and the treasure of listening to audiobooks. And I tell you what, I was just so, 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 so pleased and so blessed. It brought tears to me. I actually sat there with the tears rolling down my cheeks when I read what she wrote about the value that they had found by sitting. And you know what they were doing? They were doing a puzzle and they were listening to an audiobook. And they got so much value from it, from that audiobook. I'm not going to go into the personal details of that value, but bottom line, they found a treasure. And that was just fantastic. So I'm at the moment listening to an audiobook while I'm doing a puzzle. That's when I'm bringing the balances into place. And I'm being thoroughly blessed by this audiobook. It's a memoir, autobiography, which I'm listening to, which is fantastic. Anyway, I'm being blessed by that. So why not share the blessing? So there it is. And please share your blessings with me. I would be very blessed if you were to share your blessings with me. So thank you for listening. That's been a blessing in itself. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Have a wonderful, wonderful treasure hunt time, finding the treasures through this global pandemic time. You have a lot of treasures to find. So I hope you enjoy the hunt. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.